Graphing polar equations. To graph polar equations, one of the things you need to know is the equation of a circle. The equation of a circle is x squared plus y squared equals r squared. So let's take a look at an example. Graphing polar equations. We have r equals 3. And one way to graph this is by squaring both sides. That's one method. If we square both sides, we get r squared equals 9. R squared, we can substitute the equation of a circle in for r squared, so we get x squared plus y squared equals 9. And now we have an equation that we can graph. Okay, notice the center is at 0, 0, and the radius is the square root of 9, which is 3. So from the center, 0, 0, we're going to go out 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And then we're going to try, in freehand, draw our circle. And there you go. There's your circle. All right, let's take a look at another example. Number 2. This time theta equals pi over 4. Okay, so if we want to graph this, we're given an angle. So what I would do is, I know that the tangent, if I take the tangent of both sides, let's see what we get here. Pi over 4. Tangent of theta equals the tangent pi over 4. The definition of tangent is x over y. Tangent of pi over 4, remember that's the square root of 2 over 2 divided by the square root of 2 over 2. So that's going to be 1. So now solving for y, we get cross multiply, we get y equals x. Okay, so to graph this, we have an angle of pi over 4. So I'm going to go, remember pi over 4 is 45 degrees. So we got an angle of pi over 4. And then we have the line y equals x. And there's your graph. We have a line. All right, let's look at another example. Number 3. Okay, r times the sine of theta equals 2. Now recall that y equals r times the sine of theta. So we could rewrite this as y equals 2. So going to y equals 2, so 1, 2, and drawing our line at y equals 2. And there's your graph. Now if I wanted to use my graphing calculator, what you would do is you would solve the equation for r. So I would divide both sides by the sine of theta, and we'd get r equals 2 over the sine of theta. Okay, on your graphing calculator, you're going to want to go to mode. You're going to go down and change it to polar. Press enter. Now when you press y equals, we got r equals. And our equation, 2 divided by the sine of theta. So 2 divided by the sine of theta. And graph. And there it is, y equals 2. And that's how you get your calculator to graph your polar. Okay. All right, let's take a look at another one. Actually, why don't you do this one? Number 4. R times the cosine of theta equals -3. Please graph this for tomorrow. Okay, so next example. In this case, we don't want to square both sides. Yes, we'd get an r squared here, but we'd get 16 sine squared, and there's really not much we can do with that. So what we want to do here is we want to multiply both sides by r. That's another way that we can get r squared. So we get r squared equals 4r sine theta. R squared converts to x squared plus y squared equals 4 times r times the sine of theta. Recall that r times the sine of theta is equal to y. Now, we want to take this a step further. If we want to graph this, it's in the form of a circle. Notice the x squared and the y squared. So we're going to go ahead and subtract the 4y. Now, in order to finish this, we want to complete the square in order to figure out what our h value is. Recall, yes, this is the basic circle equation, but when there's a parameter change, it goes like this, if you'll remember. Where h and k represent the center of your circle, and r is the radius. Not r squared. Got to take the square root of that number, r, and this is the center. So in order to put it in this format, we have to complete the square. Well, obviously, the h value is going to be 0. There's nothing to complete here. It's just x squared. So we know that the center is going to be at 0 something. So we have to complete the square on the other side. So maybe you forgot how to do that. Let's go through completing the square quickly. So the way I teach it is I leave a blank. Then I start to convert. So we convert it to the form of y minus half of 4 is 2. Okay, take half of your middle term, 2, and then we have to square the 2. 2 squared is 4. So since we added 4 here, we have to add 4 over here, equals 4. And so the k value, remember, since it's in parentheses, it's going to be positive 2. So the center of our circle is going to be 0, 2, and the radius is going to be the square root of 4. Because remember, that represents r squared. So it's going to be 2. So graphing it. Okay, so centered at 0, 2. 2 is the radius, so 2 in each direction. And we could just test this out. Notice 4 times the sine of theta. If we graph it, we get our circle. Looks kind of weird because the screen is not square, it's rectangular. So to change it to a square screen, we're going to go zoom, and we're going to do 5 for square. So 5, and now it looks more like a circle. Okay, finally, number 5. Here's one for you to do for your notes. So I'll be looking for 2 graphs from you tomorrow. And your assignment will be on page 597. You can read it for yourself. And this assignment will be due on Friday. Have a good night.